Welcome to the Daily Decorista with your host, Ann Capua.
Hi, and well, this video I'm going to share with you how you could create some really beautiful Valentine decorations using a few techniques on air dry clay. Creating these Valentines brought me so much joy. I want to share that joy with you, and I hope it brings you joy. So enjoy. Okay, so I've rolled out some of the air dry clay, and now I take a stamp pad. This one I found at Hobby Lobby. I love it because it has beautiful handwriting on it, and when I think of Valentine's, I think of love letters. So what I'm doing is I'm basically just repeating the pattern by pressing the stamp into the clay all around so I could get the most out of the clay by cutting different shape hearts out of cookie cutters and getting as many different Valentines as I can from this one roll of clay. As you can see, I got several. And to give you an idea of other different stamps that I like to use, this one is from IOD. It's a rose stamp. And what you see me doing here is I am just basically finding out how I like it to be on the heart. Just position it. It doesn't have to be straight. Give it a little bit of interest by turning it over to the side. And this is how it came out. And this is another stamp that I really love by IOD. I love the handwriting in this one. It's nice and big, and you can really press it into the clay and get a deep indentation, which you see here. And then when I go to paint it, you'll see how nice it takes the paint. I just make some holes in here for now for the hanger and for a tassel to embellish it. So this is how we're going to paint it. First, I have it painted white, basically for a bottom coat, and it had a little bit of pink in it just to give it a little bit of a pink touch. But I take some gray paint and I mix it with water to make a wash, and I like to use makeup sponges for my painting, especially on projects like this. So what I'm doing is I'm applying a very wet, loose coat onto the dried clay on top of the first coat. And what I want that to do is kind of soak down into the clay and get in all the indentations, especially where the handwriting is. And you see me paying attention with the edge of the sponge, and I'm kind of dipping it a little bit heavier into all the indentations. So you'll see now that I'm satisfied with it, what I do is I take a paper towel and I am going to rub off all the excess liquid. This is the effect I'm going for. I wanted to kind of see the whitish, pinkish in the background, but I really wanted to focus upon the handwriting. This is the effect I was going for. I really love the way the paint seeped into the handwriting. And what I'm going to do now to finish this piece is dry brush another coat of paint on top, really bringing out the handwriting underneath. You see me rubbing the extra paint off the brush, and just look how nice this effect takes to the piece. I really love the fact that I didn't perfectly mix the paint. It gives me a little variation in color, but just pay attention to how nice that handwriting is starting to pop. Now, no worries if you put a little bit too much paint on, and what I did here is you'll see as I'm painting, I kind of globbed it a little bit into the handwriting and I wasn't happy with that. So this is how I fix it. Took a paper towel that I had laying around and I go in there and I give it a good rub off the extra paint. It's not too much because I was dry brushing it. And then I take my sponge again and I just layer in another wash of the wet wash and let it soak in for a while. And here's me doing it again with a different heart. Notice now I'm using the back tip of the makeup sponge. It's an excellent tool to just lightly go over the piece, and it soaks up all the extra wash so you don't have too much. And then here you'll just see me dry brushing another piece that I stamped with the rose pattern. You can see that the dry brushing technique is really excellent for bringing the pattern up from underneath. After eyeballing it, I decided to take a towel and just wipe off some of the excess. I wanted to really see that color underneath. Technique I want to show you is decoupage. What I do when the clay is dry is give it a coat of something with a white base, because you don't want to decoupage on top of the clay. It's not bright enough to make the color from the tissue paper kind of pop. So I did add, and I put a tinge in of pink. And what I did here was I took some tissue that I found on Zazzle.com, and I found these really pretty pink roses that I liked. You could use napkins, you could use rice paper, you can go on Etsy. There's plenty of downloadables that you can just print out. But this one I liked. I love the roses. And what I did was I added the Mod Podge, and I'm kind of like playing around while it's still wet, the actual positioning of where I'd like it to be on the heart. But you can see I find my way, and that's where I set it down. I'm happy with it. I add a generous amount of Mod Podge on top. I'm doing this because I am going to kind of distress it a little bit. I'm going to take a very thin sandpaper and sand it down because I want to give it a little bit of a shabby chic vintage look. So that's why I'm adding a little extra Mod Podge on top. And here you can see I have another set of roses that I found on the tissue, and I kind of like the print on this one. It comes from an old vintage seed package, and I wanted to include that on my heart, so you'll see me playing around with the positioning until I'm happy here. The lettering, I do think it adds some character, gives a little bit of history and curiosity to the piece. I will say, excuse my messy hands, but I do work in the shed and I don't have a sink in here. So my messy hands are a sign that I've been having a really fun time in here, and I just keep working through it. So excuse my messy hands. Here you'll see me going over the edge. I'm just doing this for effect, and when I sandpaper it down later on, it'll look nice. And you can see that when I take this piece here, and now that I have the clay is nice and completely dry, the sandpaper works really well with the dry clay, and I'm able to achieve that shabby chic look that I was looking for. Just want to add that this is a very light sandpaper. I am in love with this red and white toile pattern paper that I got at Christmas time. I save wrapping paper all the time for projects, and this one is absolutely one of my favorites. And I'm going in with the sandpaper. I kind of take the red and I kind of distress it to the point where it looks nice and old and vintage. This wrapping paper is a little thicker than the tissue paper, so it really gives me the opportunity to get in there with the sandpaper and be a little more aggressive with it. A great thing to use to make castings from air dry clay is to use silicone molds. You can use special ones like Redesigned by Prima or IOD ones. These are the ones at Michael's. This is one I found on Amazon. There are many out there. Just find what you like, and you make castings by putting the air dry clay into the mold. And you can see once they dry, I just sent them out and I painted them with gold. You can paint them with any color that you like. You want to add, you should make sure that they are laying down flat as they dry. This way it makes it easier for you to glue them down onto your hearts. Now here you'll see when I glue them down, I'm using E6000 glue. Use that or a really super strong glue so they don't break off later. Don't these fondant molds make really great clay molds? I just love how pretty these roses are. So in using them as embellishments, I added a tassel in first, and then I took the glue and I glued on my casting to the bottom. And on the top, you see I added my string so I could use it as a tie to hang it. So then I just added the casting on top after the string was in place. Showing you how I position them first before I glue them in place. I save all little bits of trim. So here I had a little piece of trim that had really pretty tassels on it with a bead. I just cut off one of the pieces and I used this as an embellishment on the bottom. And here, Michael's had a sale not too long ago where they sold these tassels in the jewelry aisle. They were on sale, believe it or not, for $2 for 6. So I was able to make so many different things using those tassels. Look how pretty these embellishments look. I put a tiny craft mirror in the center of that one. This one looks like a received love letter. It's nice to know your love letters have been received. This is that pretty rose one that you saw me working on earlier. I really love this one. I cut out a little piece of that toile scene and managed to fit it in the middle. And I just wanted to show you these real quick. I found these really beautiful ostrich tassels in the jewelry aisle at Hobby Lobby. And I just wanted to show you they're so pretty. So look around in different sections for different ideas for tassels. Or you can make your own. Here's a look at my shabby chic decoupaged ones. Just love my red and white toile ones. I love the way they look with my red and white transfer wear. And I'm definitely going to be putting these on my Valentine's table. By punching 2 holes in the top of the hearts, you can even make a garland. I really like the way this love garland came out. The bigger red one with the gold embellishments on it, if you take a look, I added in some roses there. That's because I cracked those 2 pieces. I pushed too hard when I was gluing them down, so just be gentle. And here's a last look. I have them all hanging up in a tree in my she shed. I just wanted to show you how pretty they look hanging up. And I think this is my favorite, one of my rescue cat, Bubby. I hope the techniques are something simple and fun and you want to try it, and I'd love to see what you make. So if you do make some and you post them on social media, tag me at the Daily Decorista. I completely love to see whatever you create. Share your joy back with me. You know, it's what makes the world go round, I think. The world has been crazy, and the littlest thing we could do is just share a little joy with one another. You know, even on days for me when it's a little more difficult to share some joy, you know, I try and I just do a little something, and it just changes the whole vibration of the day. So I hope my video brought you joy. Thank you so much for watching. I can't wait to see what you make. I can't wait to speak to you. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I will see you soon. Thank you for watching. Happy creating. Happy self-love Valentine's Day. Bye for now.
Thank you for watching the Daily Decorista. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe and click the bell for notifications on new videos.